UNWIND in collaboration with psychotherapist Aanchal Gehi. So, thank you so much for joining in and let's get started. I hope I'm audible, right?
You are audible, actually.
Okay, okay. Yeah. So, people can experience an emotional or mental health crisis due to wide range of situations. Suicidal thoughts, much like mental health conditions, can affect anyone regardless of age, gender, or background. September is known as the Suicide Prevention Month. World Suicide Prevention Day is also celebrated on 10th of September to raise awareness on the stigmatized and often taboo topic. In addition to shifting public perception, we use this month to spread hope and vital information to people affected by suicide. The truth is, we all can benefit from honest conversations about mental health conditions and suicide because just one conversation can change a life. Looking into India's stats on suicide, the rates of suicide have been increasing since the past 5 years. 40% of the world's total number of female suicides take place in India. Although there can be various reasons for a person having suicidal thoughts, majorly it is dominated by some kind of family problems. Mostly, people between 18 to 30 years of age are most likely to be affected by suicidal thoughts. Although more women than men attempt suicide, men are nearly 4 times more likely to die by suicide. Some of this could be credited to domestic violence, which comes out to be a major reason in most of the households. Now, I would like Hamza to continue.
Yes, suicidal tendencies are very common in college students as they are newly introduced to their increased freedom and independence, which is a complete change from their previous lives of following a strict school schedule, which could be a burden to them. They also have more responsibilities and greater stress from increasing academic demands. These tendencies can become even more intense if a person already has been diagnosed with a mental disorder. According to 2015, okay. Another reason for suicidal thoughts is also the intense competition and vast syllabus of the competitive exams such as JEE and NEET. Students come under a lot of pressure due to these exams. This pressure can come from one's own overthinking or also from their parents and relatives. This makes a student feel as if they won't be able to achieve anything in life unless they ace their competitive exams. This creates a feeling of confusion and not knowing what to do with their lives. Therefore, it is important not to push a student too much regarding academics and to also listen to their opinions on what they want to pursue. Bullying has been a major reason for suicides in the past decade. Bullying could be verbal as well as physical. When a student is bullied, they feel as if they are different and they don't belong. Their self esteem decreases and they feel vulnerable. They start to feel as if they don't matter. This increases their suicidal tendencies. Therefore, a person should always think twice before they do or say something, as it might affect someone in a way we never thought, which could lead to them taking their own life. And now we have Miss Aanchal Gehi, who is a renowned psychotherapist and also an advocate for mental health awareness, to give her professional opinion on the topic. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Hamza and Manvi, for those insights. I mean, the rate of suicide is just alarming. And I'm so glad to see so many of you present here supporting a very amazing cause, because suicide prevention is about how you can do your bit in preventing suicide. So, yes, my name is Aanchal Gehi, and I'm a music therapist. I run an organization that uses creative therapy, and I've been practicing now for the past 5 years. And what I'm hoping that through this workshop, you'll be able to learn how to provide emotional support to someone who is in need. So, let's begin by talking about why we don't call it committing suicide and why we call it die by suicide. So now there has been a major perspective shift because people commit crimes, people commit infidelity, people commit fraud. But Now, if we say people commit suicide, that means that we're looking at suicide from a criminal perspective. Whereas suicide is not a crime. It is that the individual is probably going through a very difficult time in their life. And it is not necessary that, they have a mental disorder. Suicide is not always related to a mental disorder, and it can be a very crucial part and a very it happens in human life that someone goes through a suicidal phase, or someone experiences suicidal thoughts or feelings. So it is a very natural part of the human experience. So it is not necessary that everybody you meet and who may be experiencing suicidal feelings or thoughts necessarily has a mental disorder. Okay. So this is why we don't say committing suicide anymore. So please keep in mind that we don't call them suicidal people also. We say that they are people who have suicidal thoughts or feelings. Oftentimes what happens is that we tend to make suicide the entire identity of the person. Now, if we're trying to help someone out, we have to remind them that suicide is not their entire identity, that this is a part of their life and this is something that they can overcome. Most oftentimes what happens is that people want to end their these feelings of pain, isolation, loneliness, and they don't necessarily want to end their life. So what we're going to do today is that we're going to talk more about how to provide emotional support to someone who is having suicidal feelings or thoughts. Okay. So let's do a little bit of an activity before we do that. Now, I would like you to raise your hands or drop in a heart. Okay. If your answer is yes to any of these questions. So what we're going to try and do is break the silence, because there is such a huge stigma around suicide. It's easier to say that I've met with a car accident than it is to say I want to hurt myself, or I want to probably end my life. So let's try and break the stigma. Okay. So let's begin. So how many of you present here have friends or family that have had suicidal thoughts or feelings? You can drop in a heart. All right. Yeah, that's a lot, right? That's a lot of people present over here. And now, out of all of you present over here, how many of you yourselves have had suicidal thoughts or feelings at some point in your life? All right. All right. So I see that a lot of you have responded, and I'm sure there may be some, still there in the crowd who may not be able to express themselves or say that this is how I feel because of the stigma associated with suicide. So if there is anybody else out there, what I would like someone to do who had dropped in a heart saying that they're feeling suicidal. Veronica, is that you? Veronica Ross? Did you drop in a heart? I would like
Yes, I
you
did.
to, okay, I would like you to say something to the other people in the crowd who may not be comfortable right now sharing that they're suicidal. Give them some support. What are you going to say to them?
No, I don't think I'm up for it.
Okay, okay. Any reason? Would you like to share? Okay, I understand it is a very difficult topic. Would someone like to volunteer to say something to these people who are feeling very disconnected, very lonely sometimes, and may want to end their life? Would someone like to volunteer? Offer a few words of support. Yes, please, Jughead, go on.
Yeah, so I have had suicidal thoughts in the past, and that was the reason for that was work failures, then stuff related to just college, and some, like, I run a small business, and business failures. So sometimes I had hit rock bottom during those times, and that times when you feel like every door is closed. Wherever you go, you go to your parents. Like, obviously these days teenagers do a lot of things, but the parents aren't very supportive towards the new fields. So, I go to my parents, they do not support me at all, or just, anywhere you just don't get support. You don't, people do not understand what you want to do. So you want to gain higher knowledge, age comes in as a barrier. There are various barriers, and sometimes you just feel it's too much now. I cannot take it, and I just feel like ending it all.
I understand. It sounds like a very
I
difficult
have
experience.
attempts to. I have done attempts to. I had like once jumped from third floor. I su- I for some reason I did not have any like I did not get hurt due to that, but yeah, I've had experiences.
I understand, Jacket. This must be so difficult for you when you're not getting support from your parents, who are your primary caregivers. And then it can be so difficult to go through these things on your own. I really hope you do see a therapist. What I want you to do, Jughead, is I want you to tell the crowd a few words of support. What can you tell them to support them? I want you to give them a message.
So one thing I want to tell you all is, see, sometimes you do have tough times. There are times when you feel that no door is going to open, but you know, you are the person who needs to create that door for yourself. No window is gonna open by itself. You are the one who needs to dig a hole and get out of that situation. You cannot wait for a window to open for you or a door for open to open. You just need to dig out yourself. And as I said, like, I did not receive any support. So what I did at that time, I looked for people who are like me, who have similar interests, or my family, my friends, like cousins and all. Then I turned to them. I saw, okay, these people understand me. My friends understand me. Friends are someone who you can always turn to, because like I like to quote a dialogue from one BB video that you cannot put best in front of any family member, but you put best in front of friends, because we know that they're gonna stick around everywhere all the time. So have someone in your life, have some people who'll always, they'll slap you if you're going wrong. They'll, pat your back if you're doing wonderful. Just have someone who appreciates you, have someone who cares for you, and have someone who would never let you do wrong. And sometimes if there's not, be that person, be that someone who always, pats you on the back. You can always be it too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's all.
Thank you so much, Jughead, for sharing such beautiful insight. It is very important to have an emotional support system, but oftentimes what happens is that we can't have that emotional support system, and which is probably also the cause of you feeling suicidal. This may apply to some other people around here. So let's talk more about how you can provide emotional support. If you yourself are someone who is experiencing suicidal feelings, then I definitely would encourage you to see a therapist. Okay. And if it's possible, you could also probably learn some coping strategies. It can be breathing, journaling, but at the same time, these strategies are going to not be very useful if you're not going to see a therapist. Also, this is an advice: please do not get on medication if you're having suicidal thoughts or feelings without seeing a therapist. Please make sure that you are also under a therapist, you're also working on yourself in therapy. Otherwise medication is not just going to work. So yes. Okay, so now let's talk about emotional support. So how can you provide emotional support? So the first thing that you can do is you can just listen. Oftentimes what happens in a conversation is that when you're talking or when someone is trying to share, then the other person, the person B who is listening, they may start sharing their own story. They may interrupt, or they may not be able to actively listen to everything that you're saying. They may get restless, they may get really excited, and they just want to add on, they want to give advice. That is not listening. So if you have a friend, or if you yourself are in this position, you can try using a mirror to talk to yourself. But if you have a friend who is in this position, make sure that you listen to them. So that's the first thing that you need to do to provide emotional emotional first aid. You need to be able to listen. It's very difficult. It's very easy to say, yeah, I listen, but it's actually very difficult to do because the body just wants to talk. The body just wants to react or respond. And it's very difficult to hold your urges when you're providing emotional support for someone else. So if someone's going through a tough time, let them talk. Okay, that's the first thing that you have to do. You have to let them talk. Don't try to fix things because it's not your responsibility to fix anyone. Also, the kind of advice that you give may be something that works for you, or you haven't even tried it, but not necessarily will work for someone else. So giving advice, giving suggestions is absolutely useless. And this is not something that we do in therapy either. We don't give advice, we don't give solutions. Together, the therapist and the client come up with their own solutions, their own way of coping with suicide. So it is definitely important, if you have a friend, to direct them towards a therapist. So don't try to fix them. It is not your duty. It is not your responsibility. Your responsibility or your role is to listen to them, to assure them that you're there for them, to make sure that they know that they can reach out to you if there is a threat that they will harm themselves. Okay, so that is the kind of assurance that you need to provide. Also, oftentimes what happens is that people tend to compare their pain with each other. So if somebody is sharing their pain, the other person may say that, hey, this happened to me too, or I know this, this happened to this friend's dad of mine. People start doing that, and which is why listening is so difficult. So don't compare your situation to anybody else, right? Everybody goes through their own set of problems. No problem is big or small. Depending on who they are, their problem will be big for them, right? We're not anybody to decide whether somebody else's problem is big or small. Okay, so that's why you also can't try to fix. Don't compare your problem. Don't give advice because you don't really know what it feels like to be in the other person's shoes. Okay, so this is yes, this is something basic that you can begin with. The other thing that you can do is make sure that your friend or your loved one is eating well. They're taking care of their hygiene. They're hydrated, because once they take care of these things also, it can make such a huge impact on their mental health. Even if somebody gets out of bed when they're feeling suicidal, it makes a huge impact, right? It is still considered as progress in therapy. It is still progress if you get out of bed, even though it may seem like a little thing, but these little steps is what make progress. So if you are someone who is experiencing loss of interest because of your suicidal feelings, try to remember the things that you probably did enjoy. Or even if you don't feel like exploring something, try to start small and start exploring little things, right? Now these are just tips. This may be therapeutic, but this is not therapy. So all of you who have probably raised your hands here today, I do encourage you to reach out to a therapist who is going to be able to help you, because this workshop is, yes, you can only do so much to help yourself. Mostly what happens, like Manvi and Hamza said, there are family problems which lead to suicidal feelings, suicidal tendencies, right? There is too much going on in your environment. So to be able to process all of this, you need a third person. A third person is a therapist, someone who is going to be able to provide you with a unbiased view, right? They're not going to give you solutions. They're not going to tell you what to do, but at the same time, they'll help you take responsibility, take accountability, and help you make changes in your life. Okay. So the other thing that you can do if someone is feeling suicidal, and because you're not allowed to share your own story, instead what you can do is you can ask them questions about what exactly is going on. Why are they feeling the way they are? What is the problem? Asking these questions to them also helps them see where the problem lies, what it really is. So listening plays such a huge role, and by asking questions, you're also encouraging listening. So that is not interfering. Interfering would be, hey, this happened to me too. But asking questions is something like, oh, can you tell me more about why this happened? You can acknowledge their pain and say, I can't imagine what you must be going through, or it must be so difficult for you. Can you help me understand more about how you're dealing with it, or how you're feeling, or what is going on? And yes, this is how you can provide emotional support. Now, we're also going to be doing a little activity after I finish with the toolkit, I just have one last point. So yes, this activity is going to help you practice providing emotional support to someone else. So the last thing that you can do to help someone who's feeling suicidal is that you can collaborate with them. You don't have to say, maybe you should see a therapist. Instead, what you can say is that, can we find a therapist together? Would you like me to help you find a therapist together? Right? Because oftentimes what happens is a person who is feeling suicidal is not going to have the energy or is not going to be very willing to try and get out of the situation. This is where you step in and you say, can we find a therapist together? Collaborate with them. When you say maybe you should find a therapist, it sounds like, oh, something is wrong with you and you're all alone and you have to go through this all alone. Whereas you have to assure them that you're there. So certain changes in language can make such a huge difference in providing emotional support to someone. Okay, so now when we get ready for this activity, I also want you to check out for some warning signs or some signs, big or little, that may suggest someone is feeling suicidal or experiencing suicidal thoughts or feelings. So a person may talk about death or dying, they may withdraw, they may sound very low, their tone of voice may be very low. They may not be interested in things that they used to do. And, oftentimes it also happens that people who feel suicidal are functional. They can go to work, but at the same time, still experience these feelings of lack of interest, lack of motivation. So what we're going to do for the activity is that each of you are going to be paired with a partner. Now, there's going to be person A and there's going to be person B. So what I want you to do is talk about a difficult experience in your life with each other. Okay, the activity is going to be for 15 minutes and person A is going to get some time to speak and then person B has to support person A emotionally, and then person A is going to give person B a rating as to how well did they support me emotionally. Now, I want everyone to be honest with this rating because this is important to save a life. What you're going to do to check how much to give is, did they interrupt you while talking? Did they start comparing their story to yours? Are they, not asking you questions? So these are some things that you need to look into before giving them a rating. Be honest so that everyone can practice these skills and help save someone's life. Okay, so you're going to be paired in groups of 2 and you're going to support each other emotionally, and then we're going to come back with our ratings. Okay, keep the ratings with yourself. You can discuss the ratings between the two of you itself. Keep the ratings with you and then come back over here, and then we'll see how you felt after the activity. Okay,
All right, I'm
so
starting to
Manvi?
assign the rooms. Yeah.
Yes, all right. If anybody has any questions before you get into the breakout room about how to do this activity, please ask me now. But the major things you need to remember is that you need to listen, explore, ask questions, assure them that you're there, right? Collaborate with them and say, maybe can we do this together? Okay, don't just say that maybe you should do this, you should do that. Suggest, can we do this together? Any other questions? Please let me know.
Just a request. I had some network issues in between. Could you just brief me as to what is to be done?
Okay, yes. So what is this activity going to be about is you're going to be given a partner. So let's say there are 2 people in the room. There are going to be only 2 people in the room, person A and person B. So person A shares a difficult experience. Person B provides emotional support. And then you change roles. Person B shares a difficult experience and person A provides emotional support. Then you rate each other based on whether someone has interrupted you, whether they've started giving you solutions or suggestions, or if somewhere you've not felt like they've listened to you properly. Based on that, you're going to rate them out of 10 as to how well did they provide you emotional support. And you have to be honest with your rating. There is no judgment. We're all learning here. We're all learning to build certain skills. So try it out.
Okay, so I'm assigning everyone their rooms.
Yes.
All right. Guys, please accept the invitation.
Hi, may I know till what time this meeting will continue?
We will continue for another half an hour or so. That's what we have planned, but it might take a little longer.
Okay, thank you for the info. I think I'll have to leave now because I have another class scheduled at 8 and I can't skip this at all.
All right. Could you like give your partner a score maybe?
Yeah, I would actually give them a full rating.
Who is the partner?
Uh, Once again, I forgot the name. Yeah, Marshall Erican.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine, she was actually supposed to join this without her parents knowing, but then she was unable to. She is trying to join right now in like
Okay,
5 minutes.
I'll
Could you
see
let
if
her know?
yeah, sure, definitely.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for joining.
Yeah.
Me and this Ross Geller are back.
I think a lot of people are back.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's okay. Maybe the others can take their time, but maybe we can begin sharing. Okay. So, would anyone like to tell me how easy or difficult it was to provide emotional first aid?
Hello, ma'am. I forgot my name. What was my name? Ryan Shaver here. Okay. So,
Hi,
ma'am.
Ryan.
Hi, ma'am. So, while I was in the break room, I realized that world is very small with very similar problems, and if we can, be in the shoe or be in the same boat where someone is, we can provide very moral support.
All right. What activity for you? Did you feel like your partner was able to provide you with a 10 on 10 emotional support?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Like,
All right.
yes,
Mhm.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, how did it feel to be emotionally supported like that, to be listened to? Is it something that you've experienced before?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I have experienced some things before,
Mhm.
and it was good.
All
And
right.
it felt like कि हाँ भाई सुन रहा है कोई कि हाँ है.
Yeah. The purpose of this exercise was also to show you that you're not alone, that a lot of problems may be similar also. So, yes, thank you for pointing that out.
Yes, ma'am. My partner was Ross Geller. If you would like her to speak, I'm not sure if it is he or her, but please.
Sure, no problem. Ross Keller, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, sure. Hi, ma'am. It was actually really nice talking to him because it felt like I was being listened to, and that's the one thing that I struggle with is not being like it's like feeling that I'm not that no one is listening to me. And while I was in that breakout room, it felt like it was the first time that I was able to completely share my feelings or whatever I was feeling and not be judged, like not feel stupid that I was feeling such things. And it was good. It was a 10 on 10.
All right, great. I'm so glad to know that you were able to share your experience, and you see how much of a difference it makes, right? This goes to everyone out here. It makes a huge amount of difference when you're just listening to someone without interrupting what they have to say, without suggesting or trying to fix something. So thank you so much, Ross Keller, for sharing that. It's really important. Nice to know that, this is what you experienced. Thank you. Anybody else would like to tell me how easy or difficult was it to provide emotional support or to listen? Did someone interrupt you? Did someone be like, hey, I'm going through the same thing while you were talking? Or did they wait for their turn? Think about these things.
May I answer?
Yes, please. Who's this?
Clay Jensen.
Hi, Clay Jensen. Yes.
Right. So my partner was Chandler Bing,
Mm-hmm.
and he or she was really supportive, and they did not interrupt me in between, which was very nice. And uh, being listened to is very great, and it is a nice experience, like to get rid of a burden.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And all of you all are carrying pseudo names here. So I'm hoping that would have made the process of talking to a stranger easier. What happens in therapy also is sometimes we take a pseudonym, but then eventually the therapist works on it and gets the person their real identity out. So yeah, this is really nice that you all have had such an enriching experience, because a lot of people who feel suicidal are probably not being listened to, and they're probably not listening to themselves also. So, if someone is experiencing the same thing, I would like you to stand in front of a mirror and say these things out like you probably did in this activity, and hear yourself out. You will realize that you have a lot of potential and that you're probably hurting. And you will also realize that other people's opinions don't define you. So, try talking, practice talking to a mirror. You can also use affirmations to help yourself, because I understand not every time you're going to have someone to listen to you, and which is why a therapist also plays an amazing role when you need someone to listen to you and help you through your problems. It takes a lot. You have to be trained to listen, right? Okay, anybody else want to share their experience? Anybody felt uncomfortable or felt like they're not being emotionally supported, or they're not getting the kind of support they need?
May I?
Yes, please.
So my partner was Jake Peralta. So they were very, supportive, and just I did not feel uncomfortable at all. I kind of felt, comfortable talking to them, and I kind of felt like maybe I should have given more, emotional support. It was at the back of my head. I did not think about it that much. I kind of felt comfortable, talking to them about, some of the experiences and everything. So yeah, all of those things. It was a nice session also.
All right, great. This is so nice to hear. Everyone's had a great experience listening to each other, sharing. That's so beautiful. Okay, Lucifer Morningstar, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, okay. So I've never experienced suicidal thoughts specifically, but this is the first time I shared something. So I've never told it to anyone, and I felt really comfortable with my partner, who was, I believe, Lily Aldrin. Yes, they're the first person who has ever listened to me come out about any of this, and it was relieving, quite relieving to have shared this experience. I don't have any feelings like that now, but it feels great to get it out of my chest.
Absolutely. Sometimes it takes so much of energy to be carrying these things on you emotionally, where you're not able to tell it to someone. And it's so nice when you open up a space to listen, when the other person is actively listening to you. It can make such a huge difference in someone's emotional state of mind, and someone feeling comforted, feeling connected. So yes, practice listening, guys. It's so amazing. You can practice this kind of listening with your friends, your family, or anyone who is going through anything difficult. Don't try to fix. That is the crux of it all. Just listen without interrupting. Okay. Anyone else would like to share? We'll maybe have just 2 or 3 more people, and then we'll close.
Lily has raised her hand, yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, my partner was Lucifer Morningstar, and I'm really thankful to her. I mean, the incident I told her was not something I had not kept from everyone. Like, I told my incident to a few people, but then he or she was the only person who actually asked questions and tried to understand everything. So yeah, I was very thankful.
Right. Yeah. So powerful, trying to be curious about what is actually going on with the person without jumping to conclusions and like, hey, I know what is best for you. That kind of attitude helps no one. So yes, this emotional first aid is so important, and I'm so glad you all were here today to experience this and to explore this more. All right. Anybody else before we close for the day? I do have a few things to say before we end. Is that all?
We actually have 4 people: Rachel, Raymond, then
Okay, actually, go on. Sure.
they are still talking, so I guess they're having a very good conversation. So yeah, we
Sure,
hope they're
sure.
having a
Yes,
good
please.
conversation.
Whoever wants to go on, please. Yes.
Also, Robin has shared on chat. So yeah.
Yes. Yes. Her partner was Terry Crest. They were very comforting and not at all judgmental. And he or she felt really heard and supported. That's amazing. Terry Crews. That's really nice. A lot of you felt emotionally supported, even though maybe you all don't know each other. It's just some skills. Even though you don't know someone, you can make such a huge difference in their life. Isn't that exciting? The role you can play to prevent suicide. You all are all very powerful. Yes. Who else? Who wants to go next?
Ma'am, I had a question.
Yes, please.
Ma'am, now that we have approached, like, I see that we were talking and stuff, but ma'am, how to approach a person with these thoughts, like how to greet them, how to approach them?
Okay, you mean like how to find out if someone is suicidal or how to let someone know that you're feeling this way?
How to know that someone is?
Okay, so then there are warning signs that you can check. Now, it's not necessary that someone will come out and say that I'm feeling suicidal, but what you can check for is, when they oftentimes say that, hey, this person doesn't like me, or maybe they're canceling plans, they're withdrawing socially, or they're losing interest in things that they actually liked. Maybe then, these are some signs you can look for, if they're not taking care of their hygiene, if they're not taking care of their sleeping, eating, you can check for these signs and then maybe gauge. And then you'll come to know, maybe they'll mention dying or they'll joke about suicide or they'll mention the word. Either they'll mention death or they'll say that, maybe the world will be a better place around me. These are just some signs you can look for. But yeah, we can't expect someone to just come out and say that, I'm feeling suicidal. So yeah, provide emotional support even though you don't know that they're actually feeling suicidal or not. This is the same way that you provide emotional support because you're trying to prevent suicide. So it's not necessary that someone has to be feeling suicidal for you to use this first aid. It would go in for anybody. If anybody is having relationship troubles and you don't know if the person is feeling suicidal because of that, it's okay. You still question about what does this relationship mean to you, or how is it making you feel, how's it going, how was it before, what is going wrong now. Ask them questions. This is how you prevent a suicidal episode. I hope that
Okay, ma'am,
helps.
thank you. Yes, ma'am, that helps a lot. It's a perfect thing to begin with when a starting a talk.
All right. I'm glad that
There are
helped.
other responses in the chat as well, very wholesome.
Just a second. Yes. Oh, wow. Okay, so Robin was very supportive and she reminded her partner how far they've come. I'm so happy that we spoke so much love and hugs. Okay, that's so amazing. My partner was Archie Andrews and I felt emotionally supported and I felt comforted after so long. Yes, also they made a statement after I was done and it was, I am so proud of you. It felt really amazing. That's so amazing to know. Yeah, it's so important. Just, even if you don't know someone and you recognize that they're doing something big, even though it may seem little, like getting out of bed, say that you're proud of them. Let them know that they're doing a great job. If someone is suicidal and then they have not acted on their suicidal feelings. Acknowledge that. Say, great job. I'm proud of you for not acting on it, even though you felt like it. All right. Yes, very wholesome responses. This activity felt very wholesome. I see that a lot of you got very comfortable also. Great. Okay. So before we end, were you aware that, this is how that you can provide emotional support? Or is there someone who maybe feels like, yes, I used to give advice, or I used to, probably interrupt people, but now that has changed. I learned something new. Is there anyone like that? I know I used to do that. And that was a really long time ago before I became a psychologist. So anyone here who, who this information was new to? Or who's probably been guilty of interrupting, of giving advice, of trying to fix? You can just raise your hands. Okay. Nobody so far. That's so great. I'm so glad that you all are really up to date with how you have to provide emotional support to someone. And I see that you all are very sensitive human beings also, very acknowledging of each other. And, this is just such a beautiful group of people. So yeah, okay, fine. So let's close for the day. What I do want to say is that it's very important for you to collaborate with someone who is feeling suicidal. Maybe tell them that let's see a therapist together. Don't make it that, that it's a problem or like something is wrong with them. Right? It's completely okay to see a therapist. Even if you yourself are not experiencing suicidal thoughts or feelings, you can still see a therapist if you're trying to help someone or work with someone who is and may not be actually ready to come into therapy, because that also happens. Yes. So please see a therapist. There is nothing wrong in seeing a therapist. Please do not get on medication without seeing a therapist. Make sure that you do attend your therapy sessions along with taking your medication regularly. And yes, let your therapist and your psychiatrist together decide whether medication is a safe option for you or not. Yes, don't be impulsive in the decision of taking medication. And yes, I provide creative and expressive therapy. So if anybody wants to try out a new method, an alternative method to psychotherapy, that does not involve medication. My goal is to always help people regulate themselves without the use of medication. So if this is something that resonates with you, if you find music very healing, if you find dance very healing, so you can visit my website where I've released a whole range of services. It's called anyawellbeing.com. That's ANYA. You can book your sessions with me from there. You can see what kind of creative therapy you'd like. So there's a list of, yes, probably 6 or 7. And there are also support groups that I'm offering for people that have been abused, for people that have been through trauma, for the LGBT community. So there are a lot of support groups also. So do check out the website and see if you'd like to find yourself a support group, because that would be very helpful if someone is feeling left out or not included somewhere. A support group is somewhere where you can share, you can talk about your feelings and feel supported the way you did in this activity right now. Because I understand it may not always be possible with your parents. They don't know how to listen, and sometimes friends also don't know how to listen. So join the support group if that is something that resonates with you. And I think we're done for the day. Thank you so much for being here. If anybody has any last comments to add, you can probably either speak it out or drop it in the chat. This is all
We have
from my side.
Betty and
Betty.
Lucifer have raised their hands. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I
yes.
actually have a question. So, there's someone who has stated that they're suicidal, but they are not eager to get help. So, how do we approach that?
Well, you can let them know that they can think about getting help, that there is no, it's not a push, don't force them to get help. They are also allowed to make their own decisions. If someone is not eager to get help, you can say that, okay, fine, that is your decision. I respect your decision. you can consider it. In the meantime, I am available. I'm here for you anytime you need. You can still assure them. You can't force someone to make a decision. You can't force someone to make a choice.
Thank you.
Lucifer has also raised his.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. The thing is, I'm aspiring to be a psychologist. So most people who don't properly even understand what psychology is, they usually ask me for advice. And I know I'm just starting to study it, and I'm not even qualified enough to give them any advice because I myself do not know anything. But when I like deny them advice, I don't, I feel like I'm turning them away, and I think that's also what they feel like. Then they start withdrawing. I feel bad. So is there any way like how I can like not make them feel that way, and like make them understand how that I am not the person they should be approaching for help?
Absolutely.
Like, I'm not a free therapy here.
Yes, you can, even though you're a psychologist, you can gently draw your boundaries and say you're not qualified to deal with this. At the same time, you're there to support them in terms of making this decision. So, they have to make this decision by themselves, Manmi. So, you're only going to be able to draw your boundaries and say that I'm not qualified for this, but let's get help together. And then you can also provide them with some assurance, and you can tell them that I can imagine, or I can't imagine how difficult this must be for you. Maybe some professional therapist, maybe a professional therapist is going to be able to help you better than I can. So you have to
It still
always
feels
lead
like
them.
some of them are like still stigmatized with the idea of like therapy. So they just assume that since I know about it, I would help them. And then when I tell them I can't, they just feel like, I don't know, disappointed, and they like, sort of drift away because they feel like I don't want to help them, even though I'm telling them that I could sit and listen as a friend, but I wouldn't be able to give them professional advice.
Right, absolutely. So what you can do is learn to say no gently. So maybe be like, I wish I could help you, but there is a therapeutic protocol that, I'm not qualified enough to do this. And even though I can listen to you, that's the best I can do. You can provide suggestions if they're asking for it. If they're saying something like, please tell me what to do, or can you, help me make a decision, then you can probably suggest, but you cannot force your opinion onto them. Yes, if they're asking for a suggestion and advice, you can. Right? But at the same time, if you think they need help, draw your boundary gently. Say, no, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that because I'm not qualified to do so. And I would love to help you fully. So if
Thank you so
yes,
much.
when you're drawing boundaries, somebody is obviously going to be disappointed. And that's why it's a boundary. Right? That there is always going to be some disappointment, but you know that this disappointment is for their betterment, where they try and seek help from a therapist. Yes.
We have Jughead with a raised hand.
Yes, Jughead.
Yeah, ma'am. So I've faced issues like, I've been visiting a psychologist since like 8 years. And when I was in fourth standard, like I had tested positive for clinical depression. And since then, like I have been visiting a psychologist or a psychiatrist frequently. And I've been treated a lot of times, but still, till this date, I'm not able to get rid of everything. What even I have told it to my psychologist. I've had therapy, I've had medication, but still not able to get rid of those thoughts, get rid of those events very easily, or just whatever that's happening, or the events that were kind of triggering my stuff, which still sometimes happen. And now in there have like we are in the teenage and we have feelings for the people and all. So even in there I've had some bad experiences, which is like kind of it's affecting my physical health now. When I think about that particular person, it kind of it gives me a headache. It gives me, I'm having panic attacks. I'm having, like, hyperactivity, hyper nervousness, that kind of stuff. I've even talked about that to my doctor. But still, and they have given me solutions. I've worked on them. End of the day, I cannot get rid of them totally,
Yeah,
no matter
absolutely.
what.
You're not, no, it's not going to be possible to get rid of these feelings of sadness or anger. What happens is that you learn to manage them. Now, if this is not happening in therapy, if you've been in therapy for 8 years and you're still having panic attacks, then it would be time to reevaluate your therapist. Is this therapist working for me or not? It would probably be time to find a new therapist. And you can't get rid of thoughts. The nature of thoughts is just that they are automatic. You can't stop them. What you can do is manage them. What I mean by that is to not engage with certain thoughts that may be passing by. Okay, so
Yeah,
that is a practice.
I meant the same. Like, am not able to manage them rather. I mean, obviously, I know we cannot get rid of them, but that
Yeah.
person will always
If you've
be
not
in
been,
your mind. But
if you've not been able to manage these thoughts, then it's definitely time to change your therapist. To see why this therapist is not working for me. Try and figure out what in therapy is not working for you, right?
I've
And yes,
tried multiple. I've tried multiple therapists. Like, I have went to multiple doctors, not just therapists, like, different kind of doctors. But end of the day, nothing works. Like, no matter what.
I understand. Finding the right therapist for yourself is difficult. Yes, it is a whole process to find someone that really fits with you or sits with you. So yes, they may, fit you for some time. You may feel supported by your therapist for some time. But I do encourage you to go out there and maybe find another therapist who you can resonate with. Because
And
it's
also,
important.
for me, like, I'm currently working at 13 different organizations. So, like, time is a virtue that I don't get. Like, I'm kind of overworking myself so that I do not, get into those thoughts or something. I've tried that, and I have kind of distracted myself, and also just doing different stuff. I do not get time to have particular like therapy sessions or something like that. To like, I'm in
Right,
my
it's
12th
about your
standard right now.
priorities then, Jughead. It's about your priorities, right? So if you want to prioritize your mental health, then somehow you will have to make time for your therapy sessions. Right now, if you know that you're distracting yourself or you're overworking, that can also lead to you feeling depressed, right? Because you're depleting the energy that you already have. So prioritize your mental health. Nobody else is going to be able to do that for you. So if you feel like you have no time for therapy, then make time for therapy, because it's not something that you can just keep in the background and constantly just keep working and to distract yourself from these thoughts. No, there must be some unaddressed trauma that has not been addressed, and definitely I encourage you to reevaluate your therapist and probably look for someone else who will understand you better.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I think that's enough questions for the day. If anybody has anything else to say, please find me on Instagram. I'm known as the Offbeat Therapist. Alternatively, if you want to book sessions with me, you can book your sessions through anyawellbeing.com, ANYA wellbeing.com. And yes, I'm going to also drop in my number here in the chat. If anybody wishes to get in touch, please feel free.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for joining, and thank you so much for the words you're writing on chat. Please fill our feedback form. It kind of helps us a lot to figure out our future events. And of course, for the certificate, you need to fill the feedback form. And there are links. There's Instagram links, and also to book a session with Aanchal, you can just go over there, and she has also shared her number. So yeah.
Yes.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here, everyone. So you all are going to receive a certificate stating that you completed a workshop. And I hope you can offer these skills to someone who is in need. Even if you yourself are feeling suicidal, offering emotional support to someone else who is can also be very, very healing. If you have the capability to do it, or if you have the emotional strength to do it. So yes, try offering support to someone else also while while you're going through this difficult time, because it can be very healing. All right, yes. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you, guys. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.